The silence of space had never felt so oppressive. Captain Alex Chen stared through the viewport of the Defiant as it drifted, powered down to minimal life support, in the shadow of a moon whose name humanity would never know. 3 days hiding here, and still the Vreklik's hunter ships patrolled the system, searching. "Status report," Alex whispered, though there was no need for silence in the vacuum of space. Old habits from a lifetime of being hunted. Lieutenant Rivera's face was illuminated by the dim blue glow of her console. "No change, Captain. 2 Vreklik's destroyers still in orbit around the gas giant. Long-range sensors detect 3 more near the system's edge." Alex nodded, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility for the 217 souls aboard, all that remained of the scientific outpost on Proxima Centauri V after the Vrekliks found them. All that remained of humanity's farthest reach into the stars. "They're getting bolder," Chief Engineer Takahashi said, entering the bridge with his perpetual limp, a souvenir from the first Vreklik's attack on Earth 15 years ago. "Each incursion takes them deeper into our territory." Territory. As if humans could claim anything beyond Earth itself anymore. Not since the day the massive Vreklik's motherships appeared in orbit without warning. Not since they announced to a stunned planet that humans were now classified as a protected species in Wildlife Preserve Earth 1, forbidden from space travel or advanced technology development. For their own good, of course. For their protection. The irony wasn't lost on Alex. Humanity, who had once dreamed of being the explorers, the discoverers, the pioneers of space, had instead become its wildlife, its prey. "We need to make a decision," Science Officer Whitaker said, tugging nervously at his beard. His eyes darted to the sealed container in the corner of the bridge. The reason they were all here. The reason they were being hunted. The quantum transmitter won't stay stable forever. The transmitter. Their one hope. The breakthrough that might change everything. Alex remembered the day Professor Ling had burst into the command center on Proxima B, eyes wild with excitement. "We've done it," she had said, breathless. "We've created a communication method the Vrekliks can't detect or intercept. And more importantly, a method that worked instantaneously across any distance. No more light speed delay. Real-time communication with Earth for the first time since they'd fled the solar system in secret, in ships cobbled together from hidden technology and desperate hope. Earth. Home. The blue jewel now surrounded by Vreklik's protection satellites, its people living under the benevolent tyranny of aliens who treated them like endangered animals. "We have to try," Alex said finally, pushing away from the viewport. "If we can establish contact with the resistance on Earth, coordinate our efforts, it could trigger a full-scale invasion." Takahashi countered, always the voice of caution. "Remember what happened to the Mars colony when they refused to evacuate?" They all remembered. The Vrekliks had been very clear in their demonstration of what happened to dangerous wildlife that didn't comply with protection protocols. "We're already dead if they find us," Rivera said, her voice steady despite the dark circles under her eyes. "At least this way, we might give Earth a fighting chance." Alex moved to the center of the bridge, feeling the eyes of the crew upon him. "The Vrekliks made one fundamental mistake when they classified us as harmless wildlife to be preserved. They forgot that on Earth, even prey species evolve, adapt, and sometimes," he looked at the quantum transmitter, the product of human ingenuity that the Vrekliks believed impossible for such a primitive species to develop. "Sometimes the prey becomes the predator." "Captain," the sensor operator called suddenly, her voice tight. "Movement from the gas giant. The destroyers are changing course." Alex's heart sank. "Toward us?" "No, sir. They're leaving the system. All Vreklik ships are pulling out." Disbelief rippled through the bridge. In 15 years of cat and mouse with the Vrekliks, they had never simply abandoned a hunt. "Confirmed," Rivera said, checking her readings. "They're entering FTL trajectories. They're really leaving." "It could be a trap," Takahashi warned. But Alex felt something else, something worse, or they'd been recalled for something more important. He turned to the communications officer. Activate the quantum transmitter. Target any known resistance frequency on Earth. The young officer worked the unfamiliar device with careful precision. Broadcasting, sir. If anyone's listening on these frequencies, they'll hear us. The bridge fell silent, waiting. The quantum transmitter hummed, its experimental components glowing with an eerie blue light. 1 minute passed, 2. Then the speaker crackled. This is Earth Resistance Central. Luna Base. Authentication code Sierra. Echo Victor Echo November. The voice was female, clear despite traveling instantaneously across 4 light years. Who is this, and how are you transmitting without Vriclic's detection? Alex exchanged glances with his officers, relief and suspicion warring in equal measure. This is Captain Alexander Chen, Proxima Centauri Outpost survivors aboard the Defiant. We're transmitting via quantum entanglement technology. The Vriclics don't know it exists. A pause. Then, Captain, you need to return to the Sol system immediately. That's not possible. We're being hunted. Not anymore, the voice interrupted. The Vriclics are withdrawing from all human settlements. They're pulling back their entire fleet. The bridge erupted in confused murmurs until Alex raised a hand for silence. Why would they do that? What's happening? Another pause, longer this time. When the voice returned, it carried something Alex hadn't heard in years. Hope. 3 days ago, a Vriclic's biological research vessel was captured intact by resistance fighters. Inside, we found their research logs. Captain, they're not protecting us. They're terrified of us. Alex frowned. That makes no sense. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. It's not about technology. It's about biology. According to their research, humans are the only known sentient species that evolved from a pursuit predator model. Every other intelligent race in the galaxy evolved from prey species or ambush hunters. The implications began to dawn on Alex as the voice continued. They've been studying us, Captain. Our endurance, our adaptability, our aggression. They classified Earth as a wildlife preserve not to protect us, but to contain us. And now that we've broken containment, now that we've shown we can develop technology they thought impossible for us. They're running, Alex finished, understanding at last. Yes, and they're spreading the word to other species. The quarantine of Earth wasn't for our protection. It was for theirs. As the full weight of this revelation settled over the bridge, Alex looked again at the stars beyond the viewport. Not as unreachable points of light, but as possibilities, as future homes for a species that the galaxy had underestimated, the prey that became the predator. Luna Base, he said, a new resolve hardening in his voice. Tell Earth we're coming home. And then we have a galaxy to explore. The quantum transmitter hummed for another hour as information flowed between the Defiant and Luna Base. Alex paced the bridge, occasionally stopping to read over Lieutenant Rivera's shoulder as tactical data, resistance cell locations, and 15 years of human ingenuity streamed onto their screens. Unbelievable, Takahashi muttered, scrolling through engineering schematics of makeshift tech the Earth resistance had cobbled together. They've been modifying Vriclic's equipment, turning their own monitoring systems against them. Alex nodded. Humans adapt. It's what we do. Sir, Rivera called. Luna Base is sending coordinates for a rendezvous point in the Kuiper Belt. They have a stealth outpost there. Stealth, from the Vriclics. Whitaker looked up from the science station, skepticism etched on his tired face. Rivera's eyes widened as she read further. According to this, they've developed a method to bend light and sensor readings around structures. The Vriclics have been flying right past it for years. Alex fought down a surge of pride. When the aliens had first arrived, humanity had been fractured, fighting amongst themselves over resources, ideologies, and borders. The Vriclics' protection had changed everything. Nothing unites like a common enemy, even one that claimed benevolence while clipping your species' wings. Calculate the fastest course to the rendezvous point, Alex ordered, but maintain stealth protocols until we're certain the Frecklick's withdrawal is genuine. The navigator nodded, fingers flying over her console. Captain, Whittaker said hesitantly, something's been bothering me about this whole scenario. Alex raised an eyebrow. Just one thing. A few tired chuckles broke the tension on the bridge. The Frecklicks have been studying us for 15 years, Whittaker continued. They must have known our biological history from the beginning. Why wait until now to run? It was a good question. Alex had been pondering the same thing. Luna Base, he called to the communications officer. We need clarification on the timing of the Frecklick's withdrawal. Why now? What changed? There was a brief delay, not from transmission lag, but from deliberation on the other end. Captain Chen, a new voice responded, deeper and with the unmistakable authority of command. This is Commander Diallo of Earth Resistance Strategic Command. What changed is that we finally got our hands on their psychological assessment protocols. Alex frowned. I don't understand. The Frecklicks weren't just studying our biology, Captain. They were studying our myths, our stories, our entertainment, and they were terrified by what they found. An uncomfortable silence fell over the bridge. They discovered our capacity for imagination. Commander Diallo continued. Our ability to conceptualize threats that don't exist yet and prepare for them. Our science fiction, our war games, our disaster planning. Alex leaned against the console, understanding dawning. We prepare for the worst. Exactly. And from their perspective, that's not normal. Prey species don't imagine new predators. They respond to actual threats. The Frecklicks found our obsession with fictional apocalypses, alien invasions, and doomsday scenarios deeply disturbing. When they realized we weren't just physically adapted as pursuit predators, but mentally wired to anticipate and counter threats that don't even exist yet, they panicked. Rivera finished. Precisely. The captured research vessel contained their final assessment. Humans don't just chase down prey until it's exhausted. We chase down problems the same way, relentlessly, creatively, and with a stubborn refusal to give up that borders on the pathological by their standards. Alex looked around at his crew, seeing the same realization reflected in their eyes. What they had always taken for granted, human tenacity, human imagination, human stubbornness, was apparently terrifying to the rest of the galaxy. Commander, Alex said, straightening, we're setting course for the rendezvous point. ETA. He glanced at the navigation officer. 17 days at maximum stealth speed. Sir. 17 days, he confirmed. We'll be waiting, Captain. And Captain, you might want to prepare your crew. Earth has changed. The transmission ended, leaving them with more questions than answers. Rivera, get the senior staff to the conference room, Alex ordered. It's time we discussed what comes next. The conference room aboard the Defiant was never meant to hold this many people. All senior officers had crowded around the oval table, with additional crew standing along the walls. Nobody wanted to miss this briefing. What we know, Alex began, standing at the head of the table, is that the Frecklicks are withdrawing not just from our system, but from all human settlements they've been monitoring. What we don't know is what happens next. We fight back, someone called from the back of the room. Push them out of our galaxy entirely. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, but Takahashi shook his head. With what? A handful of cobbled-together ships and modified alien tech. Their civilization spans dozens of systems. We have Earth and a few secret outposts. We don't need to defeat them militarily. Science Officer Whittaker interjected. They're already running scared based on what we might become, not what we are now. Alex tapped the table, bringing the focus back. This isn't about revenge. It's about ensuring humanity's survival and freedom to determine our own path forward. He pulled up the star charts Luna Base had transmitted. According to this data, there are at least 7 other spacefaring species in our sector alone, all apparently part of some loose coalition or treaty network. Rivera leaned forward. And none of them evolved as pursuit predators. None, Alex confirmed. Some are pack hunters, some are solitary ambush predators, but most evolved from grazing or scavenging species. According to the Vriklik's research, this is the norm for intelligent life. Which makes us the anomaly, Whitaker mused. The outliers. The monsters under the bed, Takahashi added quietly. Alex let that sink in for a moment. Humanity had spent millennia looking to the stars, wondering if they were alone, hoping to find friends but preparing to find enemies. No one had considered that they might find neither, that instead they would find civilizations that regarded humans not as equals to be welcomed or rivals to be fought, but as an evolutionary aberration to be contained. So what's the plan, Captain? Rivera finally asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. Alex studied the faces around him, tired, hopeful, determined. These weren't just his crew. They were representatives of a species that had just discovered its place in the galactic order was nothing like they'd imagined. We rendezvous with Luna Base, he said firmly. We pool our knowledge and resources. And then, he took a deep breath, the weight of his next words heavy on his shoulders. Then we decide what kind of predators we want to be. The room fell silent as the implications of that statement sank in. Humanity stood at a crossroads. They could use the Vriklik's fear to dominate, to conquer, to become the very threat the aliens had feared. Or they could forge a different path, one that honored their evolutionary heritage while aspiring to something greater. Navigator, Alex said, breaking the silence. Set course for the rendezvous point. Maximum stealth speed. As the meeting dispersed, Alex remained behind, staring at the star chart. Somewhere out there, entire civilizations were holding their breath, waiting to see what humanity would do now that the cage door was open. 16 days into their journey, the Defiant drifted silently through the void, her engines running at the bare minimum to maintain their stealth approach. Alex stood in the ship's darkened observation deck, watching the stars. Somewhere ahead lay the rendezvous point, and Earth. Home. Though what home meant now, after 15 years of alien occupation, he couldn't be sure. Captain. Rivera's voice came softly from the doorway. We've detected something unusual at the edge of our sensor range. Alex turned, immediately alert. Vriklik's. No, sir. It's... She hesitated. It appears to be human in origin, but the configuration is unlike anything I've ever seen. 10 minutes later, the senior staff crowded around the tactical display on the bridge as Rivera highlighted the anomaly. It's definitely a ship, she explained, but the design is, well, see for yourself. The grainy image showed a vessel that defied conventional spacefaring logic. Its hull seemed to shift and blur at the edges, as if the sensors couldn't quite decide what they were seeing. The propulsion system appeared to bend space rather than push against it. No visible weapons, yet something about its construction suggested immense power contained within. That's impossible, Takahashi whispered. We didn't have that technology when we left Earth. No one did. 15 years is a long time, Whitaker mused, especially when you're fighting for survival. Alex studied the vessel, a mixture of pride and unease settling in his chest. Luna Base mentioned Earth had changed. I'm starting to understand what they meant. It's changing course, the sensor operator announced. It's heading directly for us. Alex straightened. How? We're running silent. Unknown, sir, but they're definitely tracking us. Hail them, Alex ordered. Use the quantum transmitter. Seconds later, the bridge speakers crackled to life. Defiant, this is Earth vessel Prometheus. We've been sent to escort you the rest of the way. Welcome home, Captain Chen. The voice was calm, confident, with none of the hunted animal tension that had characterized human communications since the Vriklik's arrival. Prometheus, this is Captain Chen. How did you locate us? A soft chuckle came through the speakers. Let's just say we've learned a few tricks about seeing the unseen. Maintain your current course. We'll rendezvous in approximately 3 hours. As the transmission ended, Rivera looked at Alex. Sir, they knew our exact position despite our stealth systems being active. That's concerning, Alex finished for her, or impressive. I'm not sure which yet. The Prometheus was even more bewildering up close. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating the disorienting impression that they were looking at a ship-shaped hole in space. No visible seams, no external hardware, just smooth curves that defied traditional shipbuilding techniques. Permission to come aboard, came the request from Prometheus. Alex looked at Rivera, who nodded. Docking Bay 2 is prepared, sir. Permission granted, Alex responded, curiosity overriding caution. The woman who stepped through the airlock was not what Alex had expected. Tall and lean, with close-cropped gray hair and skin darkened by actual sunlight, a rarity these days. She moved with the relaxed confidence of someone completely at ease in zero gravity. No uniform, just practical clothing in muted colors. No visible weapons, though Alex suspected she wasn't unarmed. Captain Chen, she said, extending her hand. Admiral Grace Taylor, Earth Defense Force. It's an honor to meet you. Alex shook her hand. Earth Defense Force. That's new. A smile flickered across Taylor's face. Many things are new, Captain. The withdrawal of the Vrekliks was just the beginning. They made their way to the conference room, Taylor's eyes taking in every detail of the Defiant with quiet assessment. Your ship has held up remarkably well, she commented. Though I imagine you've had to get creative with repairs. Necessity breeds innovation, Alex replied. Though nothing on the scale of your vessel. Admiral, I have to ask, how did humans develop that level of technology in just 15 years? Taylor's expression grew serious. Not entirely on our own. Please, gather your senior staff. This briefing is classified beyond anything you've ever encountered. 6 years ago, we captured our first intact Vreklik scout ship, Taylor began, standing before the assembled officers. The lights in the conference room had been dimmed, allowing the holographic display to shine more clearly above the table. That was our turning point, not just for the technology we salvage, but for what we found in its databanks. A hologram shifted to show a star map, with dozens of systems highlighted in different colors. The Vrekliks weren't the only ones watching us. There are 7 major spacefaring civilizations in our sector alone, and at least 12 more within feasible travel distance, all with technology centuries beyond what we possessed when they found us. All with the same evolutionary profile, non-pursuit predators, and all equally disturbed by humanity's potential. The map zoomed in on a system near the edge of the display. This is where everything changed. The archivists. Alex leaned forward. Another alien species. Taylor nodded. But unlike the others, the archivists are ancient, possibly the oldest civilization still in existence. They don't interfere. They observe and record. Their policy has been strict non-intervention for millennia. Until us. She tapped a control, and the hologram changed to show a humanoid figure, tall and slender with pale, almost translucent skin and eyes that seemed too large for its elongated face. 3 years ago, an archivist vessel made contact with one of our deep space outposts. They requested a meeting. Just one. What they told us. Taylor paused, choosing her words carefully. It changed everything we thought we knew about our place in the galaxy. The tension in the room was palpable as Taylor continued. The archivists revealed that humanity isn't the first pursuit predator species to achieve spaceflight. We're the 7th. The other 6 are extinct. A chill ran through the room. Extinct. Whittaker echoed. How? Why? The first was wiped out by a coalition of concerned species who feared their expansion. The second destroyed itself in internal conflicts. The 3rd through 6th were Taylor's voice hardened. Contained. Studied. Redirected. Their development carefully managed until they lost the very traits that made them unique. Their drive, their relentless problem-solving, their adaptability. Alex felt a cold anger building inside him, like the Vrekliks were trying to do to us. Exactly. The archivists broke their neutrality because they recognized the pattern repeating. They believe the galaxy needs pursuit predators, needs our perspective, our drive, our relentlessness. But they also warned us that the other civilizations would never accept us as equals unless we forced them to. By becoming the threat they fear, Takahashi said quietly. Taylor shook her head. By becoming too valuable to destroy and too dangerous to contain. The Prometheus is just the beginning. We've been building, Captain. Preparing. For what? Alex asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Taylor's eyes met his, unwavering. For our coming out party. The Vrekliks running was Phase 1. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, when representatives from all 7 major civilizations arrive at Neptune for what they believe is a containment reassessment conference. And what is it actually? Rivera asked. The moment humanity takes its seat at the galactic table, Taylor replied. Not as a curiosity to be studied or a potential threat to be managed, but as equals. And you, Captain Chen, you and your crew who've survived against all odds beyond the containment zone. You're our secret weapon. How so? Alex asked, suddenly wary. Taylor smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Because you're going to help me convince them that if they don't negotiate with reasonable humans like us, they'll have to deal with the ones who've been living wild beyond their control for 15 years. The ones who've had time to grow truly dangerous. The implication hung in the air like a blade. Are there others? Alex asked quietly. Other human ships that escaped Earth. Taylor's silence was answer enough. Admiral, Alex said carefully, are you suggesting we bluff? Who said anything about bluffing? Taylor replied, her eyes glinting in the low light. The conference begins in 18 hours, Captain. I suggest you and your senior staff prepare. The future of our species depends on what happens in that meeting room. As the briefing ended, Alex remained seated, staring at the now empty space where the hologram had been. The weight of what was coming pressed down on him like the gravity of a gas giant. Humanity was about to step onto the galactic stage, not as the hunted, but as the hunters, and he wasn't entirely sure they were ready for what that meant. Alex couldn't sleep. 4 hours before they were due to arrive at Neptune, he found himself wandering the corridors of the Prometheus, to which he and his senior staff had transferred for the final approach. The Earth vessel hummed with a barely perceptible vibration, different from any ship he'd ever experienced, more like a living thing than a machine. He paused at a viewport, staring at the distant blue disk of Neptune. Something about Taylor's plan had been nagging at him since their briefing. The Admiral's confidence bordered on recklessness, and her dismissal of diplomatic options seemed hasty for someone who claimed to want peaceful coexistence. Trouble sleeping, Captain. Alex turned to find Science Officer Whittaker approaching, dark circles under his eyes, suggesting he wasn't the only one with insomnia. Just processing, Alex replied. You? Whittaker glanced around, then lowered his voice. I've been analyzing the Prometheus's systems while our hosts think I'm resting. Something isn't right, sir. Alex raised an eyebrow, but kept his expression neutral. Explain. This ship, it's not just advanced. Whittaker struggled for words. It's like nothing humans could build, even with stolen Vrekliks technology. Some of these systems operate on principles I can't even begin to comprehend. The archivists, Alex suggested. Admiral Taylor said they've been helping us. That's what she claims. Whittaker pulled out a small data tablet. But I managed to access a fragment of the ship's logs. The Prometheus made contact with something 3 months ago, outside the Kuiper Belt. Something massive. And after that encounter, the ship's capabilities nearly doubled. Alex's blood ran cold. Are you suggesting? Sir, Rivera's voice came urgently through his communicator. You need to get to the command deck. Now. The command deck of the Prometheus was in controlled chaos when Alex and Whittaker arrived. Tactical displays showed multiple vessels entering the Neptune system, not the expected diplomatic ships, but warcraft, heavily armed warcraft. What's happening? Alex demanded. Admiral Taylor stood calmly at the center of the storm, studying the tactical readouts with almost clinical detachment. We've been betrayed, she said simply. The Vrekliks shared our meeting coordinates with the coalition. What coalition? The other 6 major species. They'd formed a mutual defense pact against us. She turned to face him, and Alex was struck by the lack of surprise in her eyes. 17 warships, Captain. All aimed at ensuring humanity never leaves its cage again. Alex scanned the tactical display. Where are our reinforcements? You said Earth has been building. Oh, we have been, Taylor interrupted, but they won't be necessary now. In fact, this is better than we could have hoped for. Every instinct in Alex's body went on high alert. Admiral, what exactly is your plan here? Taylor smiled, the same cold, predatory smile from before. The archivists told us we needed to force our way to the table, show our strength. But the truth is, Captain, we're still outmatched. We needed a more definitive solution. She tapped a control, and a new hologram appeared, a complex device nestled in the heart of the Prometheus' power core. This is our future, Captain. Archivist technology with some human improvements. When activated, it will emit a pulse that will permanently disable any ship with non-human neural interfaces, which, as it happens, is every ship in every fleet except ours. Alex stared at the device in horror. That's not negotiation. That's survival. Taylor cut him off. Do you know what the archivists didn't tell us? The reason they broke their neutrality. The previous 6 pursuit predator species weren't just contained or destroyed. They were harvested, studied. Their unique neural pathways and biological advantages extracted and incorporated into the technologies of the more advanced civilizations. Harvested. Alex's voice was barely audible over the command deck's alert systems. You're saying the archivists. The archivists are hunters. Taylor cut in, her eyes hard. The ultimate predators. They'd been culling promising pursuit species for millennia, letting them develop just enough to manifest useful traits before harvesting them for integration into their own biology. Rivera stepped forward. That massive contact the Prometheus made beyond the Kuiper Belt. Their mothership, Taylor confirmed. They offered us a choice. Submit to harvesting, or become the harvesters ourselves. Help them collect the neural patterns of the other species. Whittaker's face paled. And you agreed. I agreed to survive, Taylor snapped. 30 minutes until the coalition fleet is in weapons range. Then we have no choice. Alex's mind raced, evaluating options that seemed to narrow with each passing second. So your plan is to activate this pulse, disable their ships, and then what? Hold the galaxy hostage. My plan is to give humanity a fighting chance, Taylor replied. Once their fleets are disabled, we'll have leverage to negotiate. They fear us because we're different. Let's show them exactly how different we can be. Alex looked around the command deck. Earth officers moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for the coming confrontation. None seemed troubled by what they were about to do. How many knew the truth about the archivists? How many had been manipulated just as Taylor had? Admiral, he said carefully, did it ever occur to you that the archivists might be lying? That this is exactly how they've manipulated the previous 6 species? Taylor's expression flickered, doubt, quickly suppressed. We don't have time for philosophical debates, Captain. If we don't act, humanity ends today. Maybe, Alex conceded. But if we do this, something else ends too. The thing that makes us different from them. He gestured toward the tactical display, showing the approaching coalition fleet. They expect pursuit predators to be relentless, to never stop until we've dominated everything in our path. What if our real strength is that we can choose not to? Taylor's laugh was harsh. Noble sentiments won't save Earth, Captain. Neither will becoming the monsters they fear us to be. Alex turned to Rivera and Whittaker, speaking clearly so the entire command deck could hear. The archivists are using us, just as they used the previous species. They're the apex predators, turning us against each other while they wait to collect what remains. A tense silence fell over the deck. "What's your evidence?" one of the Earth officers asked. "The Prometheus's technology," Whittaker answered. "It's too advanced, even with Vreklik's augmentation. And the neural pulse. It affects any ship with non-human neural interfaces. Why would the archivists give us a weapon that could be used against them unless it can't?" Alex finished. "Because the technology they gave us recognizes them as exempt. They're setting us up to fight their war while they stand safely aside." Taylor's hand moved toward her sidearm. "This is treason, Captain." "No," Alex replied calmly. "This is humanity making its own choice." He nodded to Rivera, who in one swift motion disconnected her data pad from the command console. The hologram of the neural pulse device flickered. "What have you done?" Taylor demanded. "Uploaded a message to the Coalition fleet," Rivera explained. "Everything we know about the archivists. Their harvesting program. Their manipulation of species against each other. And a proposal. 20 minutes to weapons range," an officer announced. Taylor lunged for the console, but found herself facing not just Alex's crew, but several of her own officers, their expressions resolute. "Stand down, Admiral," one of them said quietly. "We need to hear this." The next 17 minutes were the longest of Alex's life as they waited, the Prometheus hovering at the edge of Neptune's orbit, 17 warships approaching with weapons primed. Then, unexpectedly, the communication system chimed. "Prometheus, this is Coalition Command. We are reviewing your transmission." A pause that stretched into eternity. "We request direct communication with Captain Chen." Alex stepped forward. "This is Chen. Our sensors detect archivist technology aboard your vessel. Similar technology was offered to us 6 months ago, with similar warnings about human pursuit predators. It seems we have all been players in someone else's game." The command deck erupted in murmurs. "Coalition Command," Alex replied, "I propose an immediate ceasefire and information exchange. If what you're saying is true, then the real threat isn't humanity or your coalition." Another agonizing pause. "Ceasefire granted. Prepare for delegation transport." As the coalition representatives materialized on the Prometheus' transport pad 30 minutes later, Alex saw not the hostile aliens he'd expected, but cautious, wary beings with eyes that reflected the same realization now dawning across both fleets. The true predator had never been humanity at all. And somewhere beyond the Kuiper Belt, an ancient vessel was already changing course, its harvest plans suddenly, unexpectedly disrupted by the one thing the archivists had never anticipated: that predator and prey might choose to stand together. 3 days of negotiations changed the course of interstellar relations forever. Alex watched from the observation deck of the Prometheus as Coalition and Earth vessels moved in formation around Neptune's orbit, no longer as adversaries, but as wary allies united against a common threat. Still hard to believe, isn't it? Rivera joined him at the viewport, her uniform now bearing the hastily created insignia that merged Earth Defense Force markings with the simple symbol representing the coalition. Alex nodded. That we went from being contained as dangerous wildlife to forming the first mutual defense pact in galactic history. Yeah, it's been a hell of a week. The coalition representatives had proven surprisingly forthcoming once the initial distrust was overcome. 6 different species, each with their own evolutionary path, yet all manipulated by the archivists in similar ways. Always the same pattern: identify civilizations with complementary traits, introduce fear of the other, then offer protective technology that served the archivists' long game. "Admiral Taylor's being transferred to Earth for debriefing," Rivera said quietly. Half the command staff, too. They were doing what they thought was necessary for survival. Alex replied, though the justification felt hollow even to him. The line between survival and monstrosity was thinner than he'd ever realized. The coalition scientists confirmed what Whittaker suspected. Rivera continued. The pulse device would have marked human neural signatures as compatible for harvesting. We would have done their work for them, then served ourselves up on a platter. Alex's communicator chimed. Captain Chin to command deck. The council is assembling. The makeshift council chamber aboard the Prometheus had been reconfigured to accommodate both human and alien physiology. 7 representatives, 1 from Earth and 6 from the coalition species, sat around a circular table. Alex stood at attention beside Takahashi and Whittaker as the proceedings began. The Vreklik's representative, a tall, willowy being with iridescent scales along its neck, spoke first. Our long-range sensors confirm the archivist vessel has retreated beyond our detection capabilities, but this is unlikely to be the end of their interest in our sector. They've been doing this for millennia. The Earth representative, a former resistance leader named Dr. Hayashi, agreed. They won't abandon their harvest so easily, which is why this alliance, however unexpected, is necessary. Added another alien that Alex now knew to be a Tellurian, its 4 eyes blinking independently as it gestured with upper limbs. The combined knowledge of our civilizations may be the only thing that saves us all. We propose a joint research initiative, Dr. Hayashi said, to understand and neutralize archivist technology. Captain Chen and the crew of the Defiant will head this initiative, given their unique perspective outside containment protocols. Alex felt a weight lift from his shoulders, not the burden of command, but the heavier burden of fear that had shadowed humanity since the day the Vrekliks arrived. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about defining what humanity would become among the stars. There's something else we need to address, Alex said, stepping forward. The archivists exploited our differences, their evolutionary strategy for millions of years. But our greatest strength against them may be in understanding those differences, not fearing them. The chamber fell silent, alien eyes fixed on the human captain. Humanity evolved as pursuit predators, yes. We're relentless, adaptive, imaginative in ways that seem threatening to species with different evolutionary paths. But those traits only define us if we let them. What truly sets any sentient species apart is the ability to choose our path forward. The choice to break cycles, the Vreklik's representative agreed, its voice resonating with a newfound respect. The very thing the archivists believed impossible. 1 month later, Alex stood on the bridge of the Defiant, restored and upgraded with a blend of human innovation and coalition technology. Through the viewport, Earth shone blue and beautiful, no longer a wildlife preserve, but the homeworld of a species taking its first true steps into the galactic community. Course laid in for the Joint Research Station, Captain, Rivera announced from her console. Alex nodded, feeling the familiar hum of engines beneath his feet. The journey ahead was uncertain. The archivists remained a threat, lurking beyond the edges of known space. But for the first time since humanity looked to the stars, they weren't facing that uncertainty alone. "Take us out, Lieutenant," he ordered. "We've got work to do." As the Defiant broke orbit, Alex thought about the paradox that had defined their journey, how humanity had been classified as dangerous prey, then revealed as potential predators, only to discover that their true strength lay in being neither, in choosing connection over dominance, understanding over fear. The stars beckoned, and humanity answered, not as the predator the galaxy feared, but as something far more powerful, a species that understood both the hunter and the hunted, and chose to be something more than either.